Coming up on Global Business, gaining momentum. China's services sector begins the third quarter on a strong note, with robust growth in business activity across the sector. Speeding up disaster recovery. China allocates 100 million yuan to support reconstruction in Beijing and neighboring Hebei province. That's after the Chinese capital sees its heaviest rainfall in over 140 years. And tighter monetary policy. The Bank of England raises its key interest rate for a 14th straight time to battle inflation, adding to a cost of living crisis. Well, welcome everyone to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong in Beijing. Well, first up, China's services sector kicked off the third quarter on a solid footing, supported by an expansion of business activity. The Caixin Purchasing Managers Index climbed to 54.1 in July, up from a 53.9 reading back in June, indicating a continuous expansion in the services sector for the 7th consecutive month. Analysts credit this growth to heightened consumption during summer travel. Additionally, the sub-indices revealed a rise in new businesses compared to the previous month. Well, the recent meeting of the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee stressed the fundamental role of consumption in driving economic growth and vowed to implement measures to expand consumption. Our Gao Wang spoke to an economic expert about this current trend and the outlook for consumption here in China. Take a look.
Consumption plays a significant role as the main engine of China's overall economic growth. That's according to Huang Hanquan, president of the Chinese Academy of Microeconomic Research. Official data shows that China's retail sales of consumer goods surged to over 22 trillion yuan, or over $3 trillion, marking an 8.2% increase in the first half of 2023.
今年上半年的消费总体呈现较快恢复的态势。
In the first half of this year, consumption showed a trend of rapid recovery in general, significantly enhancing its basic role in economic growth. The contribution rate of terminal consumption to economic growth reached 77.2%, an increase of 10.6 percentage points from the previous quarter.
It was emphasized at the meeting that China's economy is facing new difficulties and challenges, including insufficient domestic demand, difficulties in the operation of some enterprises, and risks and hidden dangers in key areas. Recently, China's top economic planner has introduced a series of policies aimed at restoring and spurring consumption.
In the next step, I believe we must actively implement the strategy of expanding domestic demand by further leveraging the fundamental role of consumption in economic growth, increasing residents' income, and driving effective supply through terminal consumption. We will achieve a seamless combination of the expanding domestic demand strategy and deepening supply-side structural reforms.
Officials say it's essential to boost spending on automobiles, electronic products, and household goods, as well as services that are related to culture and sports. At the same time, many are also expecting more specific measures to increase household income, expand demand, and shore up confidence. Gao Wang, CGTN, Beijing.
Well, China has allocated 100 million yuan, or about $14 million to support post-disaster reconstruction here in Beijing and neighboring Hebei province. Rescue operations continue after Typhoon Doksuri unleashed torrential rains in Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei, flooding roads and trapping residents. The rains that hit Beijing from Saturday to Wednesday were the heaviest the city has seen in its recorded history of 140 years. Meanwhile, in northeast China, the provinces of Jilin and Heilongjiang both issued a red alert for rainstorms. That would be the highest level warning here in China. Authorities have activated emergency management mechanisms with thousands of staff monitoring areas prone to floods. And Mentougou district has been one of the hardest hit areas here in Beijing in the latest round of those rainstorms. Recovery work is underway in the region as floodwaters recede. Our Huang Yue reports.
So Mentogo district is one of the hardest hit regions. Recovery work is still underway, including dredging, cleaning up the roads, and sanitation workers told me that starting from Tuesday, they've come here to help with the cleaning work. And across the river is the Mentogo District Hospital, and reports say this hospital, as well as 3 other hospitals in the downtown regions of this district, have received 10 severe patients who were transferred by helicopters from the mountainous regions of the district. And since there are a lot of neighborhoods in this area, I've also talked to some shop owners along the street and along the rivers. They said the rain was too heavy, so the floodwaters came into their shops, so they've suffered some economic losses. So they're now trying their best to clean up their stores and resume the business as soon as possible. And they've told me that at least in the downtown regions of Mentogo district, the electricity and water supplies have been resumed. And actually, we've learned from the Beijing Water Work Group that 4 new water distribution monitors have been put into operation, and the water have been tested, qualified. So the daily water supply is now 72,000 cubic meters, which can meet the demand of the region, at least in the downtown region.
It's still to come here on Global Business. Tighter monetary policy. The Bank of England hikes its benchmark interest rate for a 14th consecutive time to tame inflation, but in the process adding to that cost of living crisis.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global Business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business, only on CGTN.
The Bank of England took another step in combating rising inflation by raising its key interest rates by 1/4 point to 5.25% on Thursday. Now, this marks the 14th consecutive rate hike by the central bank. With British annual inflation hovering around 8%, significantly higher than that of the Eurozone and of the United States, that move is aimed at curbing inflationary pressures. So, for more on the UK's monetary policy, I want to bring in our correspondent Li Jianhua, who's standing by for us live in London. Jianhua, thank you so much for joining us. So the Bank of England's persistent rate hikes, I guess one of the big questions is there evidence, Jianhua, that inflation is actually being brought under control? And what are the potential side effects of these measures?
Yeah, Michael, as you said, is it the 14th round of interest rise? This time now it's a 5.25% as expected. We know that most of the residents in the UK are already suffering from the cost of living crisis, and the aim is to bring down inflation. But if we look at the latest figure, the inflation rate in the year to June stood at 7.9%. Chief among them, food inflation remained as high as 17.3% in June. So both have come down a little bit, but it is still far away from the 2% target set by the Bank of England. And according to its prediction, they can achieve that goal by the end of 2025. And the bank's moves have created yet another pain point for a lot of people who are already suffering from the current cost of living crisis, namely higher mortgages and rents. And earlier I talked to some local residents to find out how they feel about the current cost of living crisis in the country.
I mean, inflation is infecting everybody. Everybody that walks into a supermarket or needs to buy food to eat, it's affecting them. So clearly it means you have less money at the end of the day.
My mortgage is fixed until December, and then after that, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I might end up losing my home.
I don't think Rishi Sunak's any good about economics. And funnily enough, that was the platform we got in on, that he was a good in economy, and I don't think he is.
Yeah, Michael, one of the biggest challenges is higher mortgage rates, and according to official figures, 30% of homeowners in England and Wales are unmortgaged. And according to a financial information company, Moneyfacts, it says that the average quote on a 2-year fixed rate loan climbed from 2.52% in 2021 to around 6.85% in 2023. What does this mean? If you have loan of around £200,000, that means now you have to pay an extra of about £500 a month. That is around $620 each month. And it's also hitting the renters particularly hard. According to Zoopla, a real estate company based in the UK, it says 60% of renters' properties are mortgaged. So homeowners are unnecessarily, they're passing the pressure to renters at the end of the day. And according to UK Prime Minister, who promised at the beginning of this year to halve inflation by the end of this year, that means to around 5.3%. And he has 5 months left to deliver on that promise. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah, again, really far away from that 2% inflation target set by the BOE, so people in Britain really feeling the pinch of their wallets. Jianhua, many thanks for that report. Our correspondent Li Jianhua live for us in London. Thank you. In other headlines, we're tracking at this hour. Business activity in the Eurozone saw a steeper than anticipated decline, with HCOB's final composite PMI falling to an 8-month low of 48.6 in July. That's down from June's reading of 49.9. Economists view this figure as confirmation of the worsening economic conditions in the region. In Germany, exports showed only marginal growth in June, while imports declined. Official data reveals weaker demand as the country grapples with an economic downturn. German exports totaled an equivalent of $143 billion in June, representing a mere 0.1% increase from the previous month. Meanwhile, Turkey's annual inflation surged to 47.8% in July. That is significantly up from 38.2% a year ago. The country has undergone substantial policy shifts since the May election, including the end of a more than 2-year period of ultra-low interest rates. Of course, on Tuesday, global rating agency Fitch downgraded the U.S. government's credit rating from AAA to AA+. The move was attributed to the fiscal challenges ahead and the ongoing governance weaknesses in Washington, D.C., as stated by Fitch analysts. Take a listen.
And we see that the U.S. is much higher in terms of the debt to GDP, much higher in terms of the fiscal deficit, and the gap between the U.S. and other AAAs is getting wider over time. So that's one set of factors. The second set of factors that we really considered is thinking about that fiscal deterioration that we expect. How confident can we be that policymakers will actually address these issues in a timely manner? So that was our review of governance and thinking about the deterioration in governance over the last 20 years and whether that would change. We're not confident that it's going to change. We're not confident that it's going to improve. So with the fiscal challenges ahead and continued governance weakness, we felt that it was time to bring the U.S. rating lower.
McCormack predicted a mild U.S. recession in the fourth quarter of the year, citing the impact of recent rate hikes on the country's demand. Now, in response to Fitch's downgrade, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen expressing her disagreement, calling it, quote, arbitrary and based on outdated data. The White House also strongly disagreeing with the decision, describing it as defying reality. And up next, here on Global Business. It's our special segment, Biz Focus, where today we'll explore how the World University Games in Chengdu is revving up the city's sports scene and sports industry.
We are all connected. Across borders, across continents, connected by ideas, a shared humanity. Stay connected.
Well, as the capital of Sichuan province and the host city of the ongoing World University Games, Chengdu's enthusiasm for sports can be seen everywhere. The passion surrounding Chengdu's football games had already taken the internet by storm. And our Wang Tianyu is there with a first-hand experience. Take a look.
Well, I couldn't help myself but join their singing. It is just infectious. Turning stadiums into a pop music concert is a tradition for Chengdu's football fans. It is how they show their support to the 5-year-old team, Chengdu Rongcheng, which just managed to qualify to play in China's top football league last year. In the middle of this year, videos showing Chengdu fans singing were so popular online that everybody got to know more about the city's passion for football. So I decided to see what the buzz was all about. Despite the home court being temporarily relocated to the nearby city of Leshan due to the Chengdu University Games, the 2-hour drive didn't dampen fans' enthusiasm at all.
I queued for more than 3 hours to get today's tickets, basically from 6 to 10 a.m. The stadium was full in every single game. It's really hard to get tickets. The online tickets were sold out in just 1 minute.
Meanwhile, these men were lucky enough to get season tickets. One of them told me, combining all the costs, including tickets, jerseys, food, and gas, each would dole out around 4,000 to 5,000 yuan, or nearly $560 to $700 each year on football-related spending. That amount equates to roughly half of the average monthly salaries in Chengdu.
The money spent is definitely worth it. This is something I like. I'm also planning to bring my wife and the kids into this.
Most fans made the 2-hour journey from Chengdu. They kept telling me that the number of audiences in this temporary place cannot compare to their regular home court in Phoenix Hill, which welcomes almost 40,000 fans each game so far this year. Despite the longer trek to see their favorite team play, the mood of the crowd was still electrifying.
I don't know if you can hear my voice. It is still 40 minutes until the game begins, but there's barely no empty seat in the stadium. And the stadium is not even in Chengdu.
Some are first-timers like me.
很热血，很激动，整个现场这个氛围。天气也很热呀。天气没有我的心燥热。
Most people attending are veteran fans. Considering the intense ticket market this year, many have already pre-ordered their tickets for the next season.
Loyal fans like us don't want to miss any game. Because it was so intensely difficult to secure tickets this year, we should plan early for next year.
Even though the home team suffered a loss this day, fans still beamed their phone flashlights when the stadium lights were turned off and sang together. A show of solidarity for their hometown heroes. As the slogan says, it is all for a better city.
成都雄起，成都雄起，成都雄起。
Now, beyond football, Chengdu residents' sports passion extends to various activities. Throughout the city, you'll find numerous sports areas near communities and office spaces. The local government has ambitious plans to transform Chengdu into a national sports model city. Among its notable sports infrastructure is the impressive Green Belt. So what exactly is this Green Belt? Take a look.
Chengdu has a green belt. It is a 100-kilometer-long ring-shaped cycleway.
This is awesome. I mean, the weather is good, the track is smooth, and everything looks good. I hope I can do this every day.
Most of the people on the greenway are just like me. They cycle, jog, or spend their time with family and friends. The full circle of the greenway opened in early 2022. It is built around the urban area of Chengdu and is free to the public. Linking over 120 eco-parks, the greenway's keyword is natural.
The most enjoyable part of cycling on this greenway is definitely the gorgeous view.
It is the same reason that made Kevin Yuan quickly fall in love with cycling. Starting in January this year, he has already upgraded his bikes 3 times.
Cycling on the greenway generally takes up 50% of my total riding, and the rest is mountain biking somewhere else. I ride 2 to 3 times a week, with an average distance of 80 to 100 kilometers.
80到100公里左右。
Yuan is among the millions of Chengdu residents who are more than willing to spend both time and money on sports. Data from the City Sports Bureau shows, in 2022, each Chengdu resident spent on average around 2,700 yuan or $375 on sports. That's 8% higher on an annual basis. That also roughly means for every 10 yuan spent in Chengdu, 1 is related to sports.
一方面是租赁，那大家也愿意从。We found that people are more willing to rent out professional bikes, which could cost 100 to 150 yuan. Instead of checking out the shared bikes, they only cost 1 to 2 yuan. On our retail business, we found that people used to consider a 1 to 2,000 yuan bike is too expensive, but now they know that it is a type of sports bike. They know it is indeed comfortable to ride on and good for health, so they would buy it. Now our bikes priced between 10 to 30,000 yuan are sold relatively well.
Meanwhile, cycling is not the only sports activity derived from the Greenway. Many of the sports are not on the belt, but along the belt.
在这里头，我们有非常大量的这种运动场景。
We have many sports activities being done along the Greenway. They basically cover all. For example, the place where we're standing at is Jingcheng Lake Park. You can play many types of water sports here, including stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking. They used to be very uncommon in urban areas, but now they're all here.
We have heard about this place for a while. My friends are club members here. They have spent a long time here and have kept telling us to come. Today is our first time coming here.
There's a lot more along the Greenway: football, basketball, and tennis. The different kinds of sports business have all sprung up in recent years.
In
the past, I felt that everyone was passionate about sports, but it seemed that there was a lack of areas or venues or lack of diversity. Now we have all kinds of sports areas to satisfy their enthusiasm.
By 2025, Chengdu aims to hold more than 50 international and national sports events each year. The city aims to have its sports industry contribute to more than 2% of its annual GDP.
Well, Quanzhou City in China's Fujian province holds a significant place as a major ancestral homeland for overseas Chinese. With a population of over 9 million, countless individuals from Quanzhou have ventured to more than 170 countries and regions around the world. Among them is Tsai Guowei, whose inspiring journey from humble beginnings to becoming the president of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce in Madagascar caught our attention. This is his story.
Morek is one of the most bustling streets in Antananarivo, the capital city of Madagascar. For a span of more than 2 decades, Tsai Guowei has spent most of his time walking along the street. In 1997, armed with nothing but a borrowed 50,000 RMB from a friend, Tsai Guowei embarked on a daring and adventurous journey from his hometown, Shishi City in Quanzhou, his destination, Madagascar, where he will lay the foundation for his entrepreneurial dreams.
In the 1990s, the textile and clothing industry in Quanzhou really flourished, experiencing a fierce competition that led to a significant surplus of inventory. So I saw my chance and decided to establish an import and export company in Madagascar. My plan was to buy massive quantities of textile and clothing products from my hometown and then export them to Madagascar.
Inspired by the resilience and unity displayed by generations of overseas Chinese entrepreneurs, Tsai Guowei established Madagascar's biggest clothing wholesale market after 3 years of hard work.
In 2013, in response to the development strategy of the Belt and Road Initiative, as well as to alleviate the pressures of environmental governance and rising labor costs in China, I started to plan a $20 million investment project in Tananarivo focused on advanced manufacturing technology. I ended up completing it in 2018. What I did was to build up a base for cowhide leather processing, glove production workshop, and recycled plastic recycling base. The products are mainly sold to the United States, Canada, Russia, and Europe. At that time, it created 10,000 jobs and foreign exchange for Madagascar. But no matter how successful I was overseas, I will never forget where I came from.
In 2018, he made a big decision, which was to go back to his hometown of Quanzhou. He planned to establish an international e-commerce mall called Tianqiu. Over the course of several years, his ambition involved transforming the mall into a supply chain trade city that integrated online and offline operations. It covers everything from international trade to cross-border e-commerce, research and development design, and warehousing logistics. Cai Guowei's efforts have left a huge impact on Quanzhou's foreign trade economy. February 13, 2023 marked a momentous occasion for Cai Guowei as he received a significant honor. On this auspicious day, Jean Louis Robinson, the former ambassador of Madagascar to China, paid a special visit to Cai Guowei's hometown of Shishi City. During the visit, Cai Guowei was presented with national-level honorary medals as a testament to his outstanding contributions and achievements. Behind his two medals is Cai Guowei's hard work across the seas and his deep love for his hometown. Olivia He, CGTN, Quanzhou.
Well, currently, Quanzhou benefits from significant overseas Chinese investment, which is primarily directed towards key sectors such as manufacturing, tourism, and real estate. Vincent Chan, the Secretary General of the Fujian General Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines, highlights the remarkable contributions made by this investment to the development and growth of Quanzhou. Take a listen.
As a bridge and link for overseas Chinese from Fujian to invest in their hometowns, the Philippine Fujian General Business Association has been committed to promoting economic and trade cooperation between overseas Chinese businessmen, and Quanzhou overseas Chinese investment has played an important role in promoting the development of Quanzhou. They not only brought rich business experience, but also advanced technology and management concepts.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.